Hello and welcome to another of Sethaldor's World of Warcraft guides. This one is still going to be on our Mage line, and this is going to be Fire PvE specking. PvE for Fire Mages. This would be my recommended talent spec, and all these views are mine personally, so feel free to disagree and choose otherwise. This is simply a suggestion. So for choosing Fire, we get Pyroblast, an old favorite, used to be 6-second based cast. It is either 3.5 or 4 seconds as of End Watlook / Kata. Still very powerful, still very long range, still has a burn effect, very good. We also have Fire Specialization, which will increase fire damage done by 25%, as Arcane and Frost do for their elements, and we also have the Mastery at level 80 of Flash Burn, which will increase the periodic damage of fire spells by 40%, and each point of Mastery on top of that will increase it by an additional 2.5%. Very nice to have the increased dot damage. So, as I said earlier, this is a PvE spec, so keep that in mind as we choose our talents and I talk about them. Speaking of which, first talent, Master of Elements, will refund 30% of the base mana cost of any spell when it crits. So mana longevity, very PvE-centric focus for any talents that you are looking at. If it helps you conserve mana, it is going to be more of a PvE-esque thing. It has a place in PvP, but it's going to be more useful in PvE, simply because of the death rate and its impact. I'm going to skip over the middle one and go back to it. We have Improved Fire Blast, which will increase its crit, always a good thing, and its range, which again is always a good thing. You might be saying, well, I never use Fire Blast, why would I put those 2 points in there? Because in the next row, there is a very impressive talent that used to be in the tree and do one thing. Now it does 2 things. The second new addition is primarily why we're getting the Improved Fire Blast. And Burning Soul, which is the last talent in the first row that I'll be talking about, which basically reduces pushback taken from damaging effects while you're casting. Very nice, very effective in PvE and PvP. So, obviously a good thing to pick up, expect to backfill. Next row we have Ignite, which is an old favorite talent, of course, which causes the target to burn for an additional 40% of the damage done by any critical strike fire spell for 4 seconds. So, very nice to have the extra burn. This does increase with your Mastery, so it is very nice to grab. Firepower is good because it gives you a flat damage increase on fire spells in addition to your Fire Specialization for choosing fire. And then it also makes your Flame Orb explode at the end of its duration, which is pretty helpful. It's an extra boost to damage. Blazing Speed will increase your speed when you get hit by a damaging attack. Interesting, definitely more PvP centric, as we do have Blink, and it's not really calculable when this Blazing Speed is going to kick in, whether you're going to need it when it does or not, so it's not really something you want to waste 2 points in. Feel free to disagree. This talent right here is what I was talking about for the Improved Fire Blast, which impact, we may recall, came in with, I believe, Wrath of the Lich King, which maybe in BC, but they changed how it works. Basically, it still does the stun effect when you gain the impact buff. It also instantly resets the cooldown of Flame Fire Blast. So resetting the cooldown on one of your instant casts, very nice, because you may have to unintentionally move, in which case you want your instant casts ready to reduce the drop in DPS. Also, the stun is nice if, say, there's a trash mob that's going to get a heal off. Hey, impact's up, bam, stun, save the group from just having to waste more time. Always a good thing. But the second effect, which they added in Cataclysm, is the primary reason for taking this talent, which we will backfill to. This second effect is very nice as far as mana conservation, AoE damage, and increasing DPS overall, as well as killing multiple targets efficiently. Basically what it does is it takes all the fire damage over times on the target and spreads it to all enemy targets 12 yards near that target that you choose to Fire Blast. Now, I should note that yes, this works with Living Bomb, however, Living Bomb has a limit of 3 that it gets applied to. So, it will spread Living Bomb to as many people as it can. In the event that it spreads to 3 or more, it will be removed from the primary target that you did Fire Blast, but it will be on 3 other enemies that had it spread to them. Also, something else interesting to note, it spreads Living Bomb specifically with the remaining duration that it had, I believe. Yes. So that could be very effective as far as timing killing ads and things like that when they come out. And also be prepared to re-app Living Bomb as needed. Keep in mind the duration left on that when it gets spread. As far as the durations of the other burns, I believe it creates new burn effects and does not reset the and does reset the duration on the burns. That is still in question, however. If you know for a fact that it does not reset the durations, please say that in the comment section below. Anyway, that's enough of that talent. Let's go on to the next row. New talent that came in Cataclysm. Very interesting, very cool. Does have a place in both PvE, PvP. It is called Cauterize. Basically, if you're familiar with prot paladins, they have an ability called Ardent Defender, which when they receive an attack that would kill them, they get boosted up to a percentage of health. Well, Cauterize, when you receive an attack that would kill you, you get boosted up to 40% of your maximum health. However, the catch to this one that the paladins don't have to worry about is after that you will burn for 12% of your max health every 1.5 seconds for the next 6 seconds, which, after all the math, usually works out to you will die in 6 seconds after this. So you have 6 seconds to do multiple things. Priority is your own to decide. Kill whatever was killing you and then die with it. Kill whatever was killing you and somehow survive the burn. Or just survive the death attack and then choose to die. I don't know why you would do that. But ways you can avoid dying from this: if there is a intelligent, competent healer who is aware, they will heal you. Any amount of healing greater than 1% will keep you alive, however minimally it may be from this. You could also ice block the debuff off. You could use your mana shield to absorb some of the burn damage, and even better idea, you could use your mage ward to absorb some of the damage caused by Cauterize. So keep that in mind if you do choose to pick up this talent. However, I feel there are better places for those 2 points in a PvE spec. If you choose to disagree, there are always in every spec customization points at the end that I always mention. So feel free to choose to put them in there when we get to that point, which I will mention. But for now, I say pass over them and grab some other things, like Blast Wave, which, as you may recall, used to be a prereq to Aeroblast. But that's now given to you for choosing fire, so Blast Wave is its own special ability talent. And it is a fantastic one at that. It does everything it used to, and it has a ridiculously low mana cost. It has the slow, it has the damage, it has the low mana, it has the same cooldown of 15 seconds. Now you might notice it has a range, though. Basically what happens is, if you know how Flame Strike works, basically you choose to cast Flame Strike, then you get the runic casting reticle. You choose where it goes on the ground. Well, Blast Wave works the same way now. You click Blast Wave, you get the runic targeting circle, and you choose where the Blast Wave occurs. Think of it kind of like a Water Elemental's Frost Nova ability, or your own Frost Nova ability, only you choose where to place it, and instead of freezing it will slow them, but it does essentially more damage. Also, something else to note for those of us who've played way back in the day, they have now set Blast Wave and Frost Nova on separate cooldowns. Thank you so much, because Blast Wave is definitely not the same as Frost Nova anymore. Before, it was kind of like a copy of Frost Nova, only for fire mages. Now they are absolutely different abilities, by far. Next talent, which is Hot Streak. Basically, by casting any of the spells listed on there, you will trigger Hot Streak, which is similar to triggering Arcane Missiles if you're familiar with the other spec. And in fact, you cannot trigger Arcane Missiles once you take this talent. Basically, what happens is your next Power Blast will be an instant cast, which is awesome. Because at 0 haste, I do believe it is a 4 or 4.5 second cast. So the faster you can make that, the better, especially if it's instant, because it does a large amount of damage. So if you can make it instant, that's epic, you know. So you definitely want to pick this one up. It was a must-have when it first came out. It is still a must-have right now. Next we have Improved Scorch, which is really freaking awesome. If you don't like this talent, then something's wrong with your brain. Sorry. But with 2 points, you now have a spell that costs no mana to cast. You don't even have to worry about having wand shoot on your bars. You don't have to worry about looking like a dork using your wand when you run out of mana. You can use Scorch, which is so much better than using your wand or even hitting them with your staff, because it A, does more base damage, and B, benefits from all of your spell bonuses, such as fire spell power, your not your mastery, your fire specialization. It benefits from your spell crit, it benefits from your spell hit, etc., etc., etc. So this is awesome. When you are completely out of mana and can do nothing, you can still do something. Not only that, but this says it reduces the mana cost of Scorch by 100%. Now, this may have been hotfixed, this may become hotfixed, so keep in mind this information may be dated, but it says reduces the mana cost by 100%. When you go into the information file for Scorch, there is a base mana set, how much the spell costs at base mana. This is a template placed on that base mana. The base mana behind all of the numbers and the reductions is still the same. So when you crit with Scorch with this talent, you can still receive the Master of Elements. So you can actually get 30% of the original base mana of Scorch back when Scorch didn't actually cost you anything, because Improved Scorch is a template placed on the base mana. So this can actually this can give you net gain of mana. It is a very, very, very awesome talent. And, it'll give you a leg up on the Arcane and Frost mages who have to sit there and wait for their mana to regen. It's freaking epic. Plus, you have to throw Scorch in there anyway for a talent later on that provides a 5% crit buff. So, if that's not hindering you as far as mana goes, that's even better. It's all gravy on top of that. Need one more point. Go ahead and backfill into Firepower. Get the full 3% and 100% chance to have Explosive Flame Orb. Molten Shield's interesting, not bad, but again, more PvP, I feel. Reduces the GCD of Mage Ward by 1 second, which is always a nice thing. However, again, not too impressive for a PvE scenario. You'll usually not have to worry about Mage Ward too much, assuming your healers are paying attention. If you did pick up Cauterize, this is a nice complement talent. However, I did not, so I would not pick this up. Also, something else is that it causes your blazing speed to remove slowing effects, and also when Mage Ward dissipates from absorbing damage, blazing speed is cast on you. Again, having that blazing speed bonus is not really going to be applicable in a PvE scenario. You have your blink, you're going to have a large warning as to when you need to move generally, so not going to be that big of a bonus. I would say pass on that one. This one, however, is nice. They changed the way combustion works. Before, it used to be a stacking crit bonus up to 100% if you are unlucky enough to not have it crit. However, now it is actually a damaging spell, a very powerful damaging spell as well. What it does is it deals instant fire damage, and based on all the burn effects on your target, this will create a new additional burn effect equal to the sum of all of the other burn effects, and it will burn for 10 seconds. So basically you'll have your Pyroblast on the target, you'll have your Ignite on the target, you will have your Glyphed Frost Firebolt debuff on the target, any other burn effects on the target. Living Bomb does count. So let's say you'll have those 4. Then you choose to cast Combustion. Not only will it do the additional fire damage, but it will add up the damage over time, full damage over time from your Ignite, your 3-stack Frost Firebolt Glyph bonus, your Pyroblast damage over time bonus, and your Living Bomb's damage over time component. Add all that up, and then apply it as a new additional burn on top of all the other burns, and do that damage over 10 seconds. That is a ridiculously large burn, especially considering those burn effects that were summed up were increased by your mastery. And then they get a second increase because Combustion is a new burn effect. So essentially that's really actually an 80% burn increase, if you want to look at it that way. But that's a little sketchy math there, so I wouldn't quote that, but possibility being interesting. So definitely an excellent talent, definitely want to take it. Used to be a prereq, is now not. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make Blast Wave a prereq to Combustion. That would have been acceptable in my opinion. Next, we also have Improved Hot Streak, which increases the chance, theoretically, that you will actually receive Hot Streak. Basically, anytime you score 2 crits in a row that are not from dots, you'll trigger Hot Streak. Whereas the one before is much more unpredictable. It's whenever you cast a spell, you might get it. This one, if you crit 2 times in a row, you will get Hot Streak. If you can predict and you know what the criteria for getting something is, you'll be that much more effective in getting it. This also makes crit much more valuable and easier to understand why it's more valuable to a Fire Mage than say the other 2 specs. Finally, we have a very awesome, very cool ability called Firestarter, which apparently Molten Armor now reduces the chance you'll be critically hit, but if you take this, it will allow you to cast Scorch while moving if you have Molten Armor up, but it removes your critical hit reduction chance. So not only did we reduce the mana cost of Scorch by 100%, but we could cast it while moving if we wanted to. And I'm pretty damn sure casting Fire Blast once while moving for 5 seconds versus casting Scorch 2 to 4 times while moving for 5 seconds is going to be way more DPS. Some people are saying don't take it because they find they use Mage Armor instead of Molten Armor. My opinion is, when you're low on mana, switch to Mage Armor, and then when you get your mana back, go to Molten Armor so you increase your damage. It's just kind of like a logical swap thing. I mean, call me crazy for switching armors in the middle of battle, but that's my opinion on it. I love this talent. This is fantastic. It's really epic for PvP, but it's pretty damn nice for PvE too. I personally love this talent. Which leaves one more point. I would say go grab 2 of 3 Burning Soul. Now, taking this talent does indeed devalue Impact, because one of the things we said was good about Impact was it reset the duration on your Fire Blast. So it devalues it a little bit, but still that spreading of the fire dots is super valuable anyway. You still want to grab that talent at some point, which I'm sure we'll be doing soon here. Next year we have Improved Flame Strike, which actually makes Flame Strike a viable AoE of its own right instead of coupled with Blizzard. So that is very, very cool. Makes Flame Strike instant, and when you cast your Blast Wave and it hits 2 or more targets, then it leaves a Flame Strike AoE in the same area. So basically, if you get this talent, Blast Wave becomes an extremely cheap version of Flame Strike. Because you're only going to be using Blast Wave if you can hit 2 or more targets, essentially, in a PvE scenario. Unless you desperately need to slow something down, you will be using Blast Wave to hit 2 or more targets. In that case, if it hits 2 or more targets, and you have this talent, it will leave a burn effect on the ground as if you cast Flame Strike, which you would only use if you, we're going to hit 2 or more targets. So basically, by taking this, your Blast Wave is now an extremely and ridiculously cheap Flame Strike. Plus, if you need to cast it, a Flame Strike while your Blast Wave's on cooldown, it's a frickin' instant cast AoE. I would say take this. I love this talent. It's pretty cool for PvE because you can leave a fire patch without having to cast Flame Strike, or you can cast Flame Strike on the move, kill those damn Army of the Dead or snakes or whatever's coming at you. But I think it's pretty cool for PvE. It'll help you put an AoE on the ground, and it'll save you mana, and it'll do a lot of damage. Next, we have Dragon's Breath. More of a PvP than a PvE talent, as much as I love this, but you have to take it because it is indeed a prereq for Living Bomb, which is, of course, good. Dragon's Breath, not necessarily bad for PvE. It's essentially just a fire version of Cone of Cold. But it's not bad. It's cheap for mana. I'll give it that. That's always a good thing. It's just in line with Blast Wave. So, nothing I can really say about this being bad or good. It's definitely more appealing for PvP in my opinion, but You know, another AoE that can disorient enemies, of course that's a good thing. I can't really complain at that, especially when you have to take it anyway. Next talent in this row we have Molten Fury, which increases the damage of all spells against targets with less than 35%. Can't complain with that. Increased damage, regardless of whether it has a health constraint or not, is obviously a good thing, so I'm not going to say much on that. Take it because it's good. Next row we have Pyromaniac, which is a cool talent, if not a little too selective for my taste. It'll increase your spell haste if 3 or more targets are taking fire damage over time. So in fights in like Assad from Vortex Pinnacle where it's just him, this is a waste of 2 points. In fights like Slabhide from Stonecore where it's just him, this is a waste of 2 points. In fights like over 70% of the heroic bosses, this is a waste of 2 points. However, in the one raid boss that I've actually participated in, I would recommend you watch my magma analysis video. There was a crap ton of little lava bug things at one point that we had to kill. At which point I would say, probably would have blast waved. At least 3 of them would be in the flame strike spot. Probably would have put 3 living bombs on them. Probably would have flame striked, causing ignite to be up on at least 3 of them. You know, this sounds pretty damn attractive for what raid fights are looking like, as far as what I've seen. So I honestly would take it. I can understand if you say don't take it. Trust me, that was my opinion on it when I first read it, when I was leveling my mage. I'm like, why would I take this? I'm never going to be fighting 3+ mobs in a boss scenario. This is just a helpful trash bit. But apparently it's going to be pretty damn helpful, especially if most of the fights are similar to Magma, or have components Magma has. So I would say actually take this if you're looking into raiding. In heroics, it'll help with the trash. It'll clear out trash better. Some fights do have ads, not a lot, but some, so it'll still be helpful. You know, it's not a bad talent. I wouldn't say it's the most optimal talent ever made, but it has its place and it is very helpful in the event that you get to use it. So I would say take it. Now, this is the reason that you need to be casting Scorch intermittently. Critical Mass provides an increased spell damage from Living Bomb and Flame Orb, always a good thing. And your Scorch ability causes the target to be vulnerable from spell crits. Basically, that means 5% more crit chance from spells. Not only does Scorch do this for you, but Pyroblast does too. The issue with the fact that Pyroblast does it, though, is the only time you should be casting Pyroblast is if you get a hot streak, which makes it instant. So basically, you need to do at least 1 Scorch in every fight. You need to start off with a Scorch. That way you can get your 5% crit for all the other spells you cast after that. After you get the Scorch off, theoretically you never do have to cast Scorch again in a fight. You just need to hope you get Hot Streak enough so that your Pyroblast will refresh critical mass on the target, and it lasts 30 seconds. So that's not exactly hard to do. I generally don't need to cast Scorch more than a few times in a fight if it's pretty long. I choose to cast Scorch if I'm low on mana because it's free. So just keep that in mind. Plus I can do it while moving, but that's beside the point. Keep that in mind when you're casting. Scorch first, then all your other spells, and potentially Pyroblast can keep it up, but you still need to keep an eye on it because sometimes I don't get the procs often enough. Finally, we have Living Bomb. Fairly expensive on the mana compared to the other spells you get from this talent tree, but still can't complain, especially with classes like Moonkins having ridiculous mana costs. So I can't really complain about a couple spells having a bit. If Living Bomb, I'm pretty sure most mages are familiar with this, most people in general, as this is used in PvP a lot, but this is a PvE scenario. Again, one of your most effective spells has a very long range to be placed on someone, fairly high mana cost comparatively to other abilities we've gained from this tree, still not very expensive though. Damage over time component will be factored in when you cast Combustion, as well as for Mastery calculation, and indeed for Pyromaniac as well as all other things. Just think of it like a generic burn. And then the special thing is, when the burn time is over, it will explode, doing AoE damage. Can't really complain. New to Cataclysm is the limit of 3 targets. In Waltlook it was limitless, at which point it was a little ridiculous. but I was indeed a fire mage for a portion of Watlick, so I should not be complaining, as it was quite enjoyable. So with that, we have a 31-point fire tree, which is excellent. At this point, I would say there are 2 points you need to place. Actually, that's a lie. There are 8 points you need to place, and you'll have 2 left over. You need to fill out... Actually, you could choose to do 2 of 3 Burning Soul. I just have a little bit of an OCD with, like, not having full talents. So I would say fill out Burning Soul, fill out Molten Fury, absolutely Molten Fury. Even if you're not like me and you can live with half-filled talents, you need Molten Fury. Then I would go into the Frost Tree. There is 1 talent in the Frost Tree that you need to pick up for pretty much any spec you are as a mage, and that is Piercing Ice, which is a free 3% crit chance. Couple that with Master of Elements, and you will increase your mana longevity. Couple that with Improved Hot Streak, and you'll increase the proc chance of Improved Hot Streak. So that's just fantastic in its own right. Plus, it helps apply Ignite because you'll be critting more often. So 3% crit is really unbelievably valuable for a fire mage, let alone for any mage. And then in the Arcane Tree, we have Clear Casting, which is always a good thing. Improved Counterspell is PvP, and Netherwind Presence 3% haste, of course, is an excellent thing. You really can't go wrong grabbing that. That is ridiculous if you don't get it. Now, these last 2 points, I personally might actually go against my OCD here, because Impact is nice, and Clear Casting is nice. So, definitely, I would say, take what I've said in this video and take it with a grain of salt. Do what you will with it and make it your own, because there is really a lot of customization here. Like, you could take the 2 points from Pyromaniac and put them in Impact instead, which is what I did prior to this. You could take 1 out of Burning Soul and have 2 of 3 there, and then put all 3 in Arcane Concentration. So there's a lot of playroom with this one. I would say you have to have Piercing Ice, you have to have Netherwind Presence to be optimal. The things that you can shift around with in this spec would be the Firestarter talent here, the Improved Scorch here, the Burning Soul, and the Pyromaniac. You could choose where you want those points. I would say if you find yourself not having mana issues or don't like the idea of a free spell for whatever reason, you can put it in Impact. If you don't think you'll be needing to cast while moving that much, or you just don't think Scorch is worth it, you could take that 1 point and put it somewhere else. If you don't need to fill out every talent, then you could take a point out of Burning Soul and cap out Arcane Concentration. You could move the points from Pyromaniac to where they need, where you feel they need to be, Cauterize, for example. So definitely customize. I can't stress enough how much you should customize all of your specs. Just take what I say as a suggestion. But in this one specifically, it is even more important to do so. Because right now there's a lot of, well, I don't think I'll be casting a lot of AoEs. I want to be a single target specific fire mage, in which case Pyromaniac would be a bad choice and Impact would be. It's largely based on playstyle. So I would say when you get to these customization points, before you click Learn, sit back, look at the tree and say, you know, I really want that talent. Why don't I have it? Oh, because I chose to get that one. Well, maybe if I shuffle this around, I can get that and drop that. But definitely make sure you have Netherwind Presence in Arcane, Piercing Ice, and Frost. Those are, of the additional points that you get to place, those 2 talents need to be taken. With these last 2, I'm going to grab Impact. Clear Casting is nice, but I have Master of Elements coupled with Piercing Ice, so my mana efficiency shouldn't be impacted too much without, by not having Clear Casting. Again, can't stress enough how to take this with a grain of salt and customize it to your heart's delight. This is only a suggestion as to what I feel would be an optimal or close to optimal build for fire mages in this case. This is indeed a 335-3 build. All points were spent, no talents were left half filled, so I'm very pleased. Thank you for watching. This has been Sethaldor of the server Blade's Edge in the Guild Sacrilege on the character Arctic Shatter on the topic of Fire PvE Mage Specking. Again, thank you for watching. Please like and favorite the video if you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you enjoyed. Check out my other videos. I mentioned the Magma raid analysis. That is probably going to be considered the first raid boss of Blackwing Descent, and as such, the first raid boss most will encounter. So please check that out. Check out my other class videos. I've got a Paladin set that I'm probably going to redo sometime in the future because I did it when I was 80 instead of 85. I've got a Druid set, which was the longest set so far, and I am, of course, doing the Mage set. Next we will have PvE Frost, and then I believe I'll go through and do the PvP specs, and then the glyphs. If you'd rather see PvE and then glyph setup, or PvE PvP glyph setup, please leave a comment on my channel as to the order of videos you'd like, if you have a preference. Again, thank you for watching, and I can't wait to make another one for you guys. It's been real fun.